Hi, Belinda. Welcome to the Integrative Health Coach Success Podcast.
Hey, Julia. Excited to be here.
Yes, we're so happy to have you. I can't wait for the listeners to hear all your business expertise and wisdom, a topic we haven't touched upon yet. And I think you're going to add a whole lot of value to what we're doing here. So happy to have you.
I hope so.
All right. So what we'll do to start is I want you to kind of share with the listeners whether you've been doing this for a long period of time, how you kind of first started out in your career, what were you doing then, how does it differ than now? Go give us a little bit of a back view.
Okay, sure. Well, my story is a little bit similar to some others and different in other ways. I mean, it's also a pain to passion story. So that's how I ended up here. But I started in a completely different field where, I studied computer science and business in college, was a computer programmer, moved into high-tech sales. I was a sales executive, and then I was a business development executive for 30 years. So nothing to do with wellness or healthcare or anything like that. And what happened, which I think happens to so many of those of us in my age group, which we'll talk about this a little bit later, but my focus is, anti-aging, aging well, optimal aging. And I, my health started just declining. I mean, I was traveling all over. I had unbelievable stress. I had no energy, brain fog. I couldn't even travel. Like when I would travel, I would have to crash, and I was dragging myself. I modified my travel schedule and tried to change my lifestyle, but I still was struggling. So, fortunately, 20 years ago, I do have to say I started my becoming a student of health and nutrition and wellness. I don't know if I'd ever mentioned this before, but I went to a spa in Palm Springs. It's actually a very famous spa. A friend of mine who was like a model in the model scene, it's where they go to lose weight. I had no idea what I was getting into. I literally ate a McDonald's hamburger on the way to this place. And it was in Palm Desert, California. And I got there, I walked in, and they started getting me ready for all these treatments. There were people meditating under pyramids, and I thought I was getting pampered. And then they tell you that you don't eat all week. It's like you're fasting and you're detoxing. And I was like, are you crazy? So I almost left, but thankfully I stayed. And that's where I started 20 years ago, learning about organic food, detoxification, being healthy. And to be honest, I'm not sure where I would have been if I hadn't started that back then, because I still was struggling with my health. So how I ended up coming around to integrative health practitioner was I had seen, again, a similar story, probably 10 doctors, integrative health doctors, functional medicine doctors, specialists all over the country. I spent thousands and thousands of dollars getting labs done, getting things done, and I was going nowhere. It was just heartbreaking. Fortunately, serendipitously, I happened to be listening to a podcast, and Dr. Stephen Cabral was being interviewed. And I live in Boston, and I'm like, oh my God, this guy's in Boston, and he does exactly what I'm looking to do. I have to meet him. So I called the office, and then they're like, you can't meet with him. You're waitlist.
Good luck.
Good luck. And you can meet with his coaches. And I'm like, I'm not going to meet with one of his coaches because I've been to the best of all these people all over the country and nobody's helped me. How is a coach going to help me? Was kind of my mindset. But that's when I learned about the Integrative Health Practitioner Institute. And I said, I'm smart. I can study. I can learn this. So I started learning my own. And thankfully, I did connect with a phenomenal health coach, being you, and it was able to. I mean, it took about a year because it's a long process, but change things from my life. And sometimes I get emotional talking about it because, I was like, how am I going to? I'm getting older. My husband talking about retiring. How am I even going to have a life the way I feel? And with all these experts all over the country, nobody was helping me. And this learning and these protocols completely I mean, I can't say saved my life. I feel like that's too dramatic because I wasn't like I had like a serious disease. Like my blood work looked okay, but I could not function.
Yes. And I think in that respect, your definition of living, it comes into play, right? I mean, we're all alive, but you clearly had the mindset that you wanted to live a certain way, your retirement, your husband's retirement, you wanted to enjoy life in a specific way. And so in some ways you did save your own life in that aspect because you saved the view you had for what living meant.
Yes.
And so I don't think it's too dramatic to say,
well, thank you.
It saved your life.
I can be dramatic.
The kind.
I can be dramatic.
We all can.
But actually I have a really kind of fun analogy that goes along with that. I thought of it the other day. I was working out and I was watching, it was a show about, financial investments. And, we have sons that are, our youngest is as a freshman in college, but we're already starting to try to teach them. And even the older ones who are now working and doing 401ks. And you're talking about putting your money into 401k. Now it's hard to convince a 20-something year old why it's important to take a big chunk of your money that takes away from your drinking and your vacations to put it into a retirement fund. And you try to explain the value of compound interest. And I certainly didn't get it when I was 20, 30, maybe even. And, but now, I'm in my 50s, my husband's in his 60s, like this, if you didn't do compound interest savings back then, you're in trouble now. It's exactly the same for your health. That you've got to make that investment with the compound interest early on. And this is, we'll talk about this later, but this is my target market is, the 40, 50, 60-year-olds that have lived a life like me, big and fast, and they're getting ready to, try to enjoy life more. The kids maybe are in college or whatever, but they didn't make the investment. They didn't put the money in their 20s into their retirement, their health retirement fund. And now, I am your accelerated growth health fund.
Yes, that's a great analogy.
Because now you are reinvesting in your health because like to my story, thankfully I, invested well. That wasn't my issue. My issue was I wasn't going to be able to enjoy any of that. So that's what I think it's a similar, and that's what we do as health coaches is we give this back to people. I mean, we are able to be we're their growth fund for health, especially in my category. And as I said, I did 20 years ago, start with a lot of the detoxing and the organic food, and everybody thought I was a quack back then. And thank God I made that investment because who knows where I would have been. But I had, as we talk about, some toxicities and deficiencies that nobody was able to figure out until I learned more about it. So that's how I got here. That's how I got into it. Yeah. And I just want to help people, we'll talk a little bit, and I know there's been other podcasts about like your avatar, like who's your client? I mean, that's one of the things, we'll talk about is that's one of the first things you have to answer. Who's your audience? Yes. For me, it's me. I'm my avatar because, some of the stuff that I went through, it can be expensive. Some of these packages with the labs and everything. But when this is what's to go back to my analogy, this is your accelerated health growth fund. You're going to have to do some big investments. Just like if you're trying to catch up in your retirement financially, you're going to have to start putting big money in at the end. I just kind of like that analogy. I hope I didn't copy that from somebody because I think I came up with it on my own, but it's probably...
we'll just pretend it's all yours. No, it's true because the longer you let it go, the longer you either let your health go or the longer you let your savings, like you said, the more you're going to have to make up for it, the harder you're going to have to crunch, the more sacrifice you're going to have to make.
Well, and people don't even know how to get there. I didn't know. Like I didn't know how I was going to get there.
Because just like when there's too many financial roadblocks, when your health has, not been a focus, it's overwhelming. Yes. If you don't have someone to help, a financial planner or a health coach to help you, narrow your view and figure out what is the most important, it can be overwhelming. And so like, why start? It's too overwhelming to even do.
Exactly. And that's what I feel like and again, this may not apply to everybody's business they're building, but I mean, I would argue it might, because I'm trying to convince my 19-year-olds, the value of investing early financially. And the discussion should go hand in hand, because you need them both as you get older. You want the financial security, and let's face it, the health is actually more important. But
yes, yeah, because what good's the financial if you can't enjoy it?
Yes.
Good.
So,
all right. So because I feel like you have some specific wisdom, whether it be more business-based or specifically, for kind of how to structure your focus.
Right.
So share with our listeners about what you think the 3 most important things to kind of hone in from a business standpoint when you're wanting to start.
Okay.
What those are and what you
sure.
think.
And I'll sort of back up a little bit at that. What I did, I have helped build a lot of businesses. I actually was one of the first people hired for an internet startup that was part of that .com. It was a wild ride. I made some of the best friends of my life. It was a ball. And, so being involved in that, I also worked for several years helping IBM business partners actually get their businesses off the ground, helping them build their businesses. And also I'm a strategic advisor for my husband started a business 10 years ago. So I've been very involved in starting that. Even my 19-year-old has a business. So I do have, so I have worked a little bit on this, and although it's not been anything in this field. But what's amazing is this, I'm just going to talk a little bit about the health coaching business, because it's a huge market. It's a $6 billion service market right now, which is just huge. And based on some numbers I found online, this is expected to grow to $8 billion next year. It's just huge. And I actually saw a quote. I don't know if you know Dr. Jeff Bland. He's the founder of the Institute of Integrative Health. I'm sure you've heard of him.
Yes.
He made a quote like, "The future of healthcare and wellness is individuality and individual guidance, personalized plans based on the individual. Now is the time." Mm-hmm. And that's exactly what our opportunity is. Because part of when you're building a business, you do have to look at the market. You have to say, well, is there even a market out there? Like, does anybody want this?
Yeah.
This is a huge opportunity, because it's, as we know, medical doctors are amazing, but they only can, they're limited by so much with insurance and everything. They can typically only spend 15 minutes with you. They just cannot, address you individually. And that's what we offer. Mm-hmm. And, as we know, food and nutrition, that's the most powerful medicine in the world, right? There's nothing more than that. And we also have an opportunity, and I know people listening to this might not all be, Integrative Health Practitioner Institute people, but we're fortunate. And I've heard you talk, Julia. And you sound like a doctor. Like the details that you go into when you read labs and when you go into it. And it's all back to deficiencies and toxicities. And that's what it comes down to. And it's rebalancing, but it works. And, I'm certainly proof of that. But those of us who get trained here, I sometimes don't even like to use the word health coach, because I feel like it's so much more.
Yeah. So it can have this limiting tone to it when somebody hears it and doesn't know the depths of education you've gone through.
For example, all the labs, because, all the labs that I had done, things like food sensitivities and, the organic acid tests and some of the, the omega-3, I had those done elsewhere with medical doctors that were integrative health doctors or functional medicine, but they just said, this is where you are, but there was no solution to what you do with it. Mm-hmm. And that's what we have amazing protocols. Amazing products, amazing protocols. And again, shouldn't even get started on the products, but the products that we have access to are like so many of one of these products could actually be its own company. And that's how good they are. So we're very fortunate. We have a market. We have an amazing market. It's going to be $8 billion market next year. We have amazing products, amazing protocols. So we're just, right then and there, those of us that are starting this business are blessed. I mean, we have huge opportunity here.
Yeah, and a huge advantage too, to already have the tools to help people and not having to reinvent the wheel from scratch.
It's completely different than anything out there. I mean, it's mind blowing. It really is. It's mind blowing. And so, back to, the business part is, first off, like I said, you want to know that you have a market. So clearly we do. I mean, we're talking a, multi-billion-dollar industry, and, even with the pandemic going on, I think people now are sort of appreciating more that they need guidance, they need guidance for this, and that's what we do. So that's the one question, which we can clearly answer. I think we've answered that for everybody, is there is a market. So the other, foundational question to ask is, you need to understand, it's important to know who your client is, what your audience is. So that's where sometimes people don't specialize, or maybe they throw everything out there or whatever. So, I mean, that's an important part. And there's a lot of questions, you ask yourself about, for one thing, what do you like? What are you drawn to? For me, it was kind of easy figuring this out because it's me. Like, I want to work with, I mean, and I know like different people have, specialties sometimes in infertility or pregnancy, that kind of thing, or working with children, but sometimes it's what your life experience is. But it is important to have a focus. And yeah. I think there's certainly lots of other podcasts talking about that.
And the focus, I usually say, like, figure out where the passion is. And I think for you, the passion came directly from the fact that you figured out everything that you did, and you got to a place where you maybe never imagined yourself being or feeling a certain way. And so that's your passion, to help women in your position who all of a sudden realize, great, now I'm retired and I don't feel so hot. And so figuring out the passion behind the audience is usually a good way to kind of get your direction to be effective.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And also something, I haven't mentioned is I actually am just getting started. So, I just launched my website a couple of months ago. So I just started, I went through all the levels of the integrative health, through mastery training. And I just finished with that. Because I was in the first session, which was absolutely amazing. And so I didn't even get anything launched until a couple months ago. So I'm just getting started. So that's why I think, maybe other people might talk, more long-term what they've done. So I'm just talking about what I've done so far. Like, these are the things I had to answer just to get started. And it is a journey. And, there's this quote I see about people saying, you need motivation, to get started, which I think is completely wrong. You get started and then you're motivated. So sometimes people get stuck on this. Well, I don't know what my focus is. How do I package it? How do I get started? Just get started. Just start doing it. And don't think you got to get motivated. You got to wake up and have some epiphany. No, just start doing it, and the motivation will follow. So, and the other thing I always like to say is, don't let perfect be the enemy of good. Because we talked about my Virgonian. That's my personal challenge, is like, oh my God, it's not perfect. And I haven't got started. And even with the website, I was like, I want to change. It was like, you just got to get it out there. Just get started. So That would be my other advice to people.
Because even though it's always a learning process, and even though you're not exactly where you want to be, you're still going to be able to help someone. You're still going to be the expert. You're still going to be the person that can help, the neighbor, the best friend. Even though the website doesn't look perfect, you're still going to be able to be effective.
Right. Exactly. Yep. Exactly. The other question. So the first question, the first is that you have the market, which we know. The second is, who's your client, or who's your audience? Who are you speaking to? The next question is, what makes your service different, or what's the need, or what problem are you solving? So, and again, these are business questions that we just need to apply to this particular wellness industry. So, we already talked about like for me personally, what makes me different is, I am the client. Like, I've been through this. So my story I think will resonate with other people. I mean, there's lots of people like me that have been 20, 30 years in very intense, very successful, executive industries. And they're starting to feel it. They don't feel like it's optimal aging. Mm-hmm. And I always like to say, you got a ways to go, Julia, but one of the most challenging thing, I don't know how your age matches up to your children, going through premenopause, perimenopause, and menopause at the same time you have teenagers in the house when their hormones are crazy is hell. It's just hell. So
I can already tell that my daughter will be a real treat when she's, going through hormonal changes. And I can imagine I'll be a real treat. So good luck.
Oh, no. So the house is filled with hormones and the husbands just find a way to get out of the house. So yeah, I know. So, I mean, and that's the other part, just to sort of sideways here.
Yeah.
I went through, I know that a lot of your focus is you help people getting pregnant and the pregnancy issues with the hormones. And I'm like on the other end of the spectrum. Like, I'm working with the menopausal, postmenopausal, which is very challenging. And, what we do with the labs and the protocols and everything is, I was on bioidentical hormones and it was a nightmare. So now I'm doing the nutrition and that we talk about, I'm doing the regular testing. Actually, my husband and, we're both doing it and it's amazing. It's like we're optimized, but we were able to do it a lot with nutrition. And this is what you can learn how to do to help people with this too. So yeah, I'll get back on track now. But the other, what I think when you're talking about what makes your service different, something I like to think about, which we talked in sales, we always had to have an elevator pitch. Do you know what an elevator pitch is?
Like you're backed up against the wall for 3 minutes, sell it to them quick.
Exactly. So
this must be why I hate elevators, Belinda. Oh my God. It's like, oh no, please. I don't want anybody else getting in here. Let me just take the ride by myself. So
this is really important. And it's very hard for people to come up with is talk about, because we're talking about, even though we're talking a service or coach, it's still a product. This is still a product we're promoting, right? What can you say from an elevator, if you're going from the bottom floor to the top floor and you're talking about what you do, that when you get off that elevator, you want people from the elevator to be like hooked, like, oh my God, what are they doing? Like, wow, I need to know more about this. Like, what can I do? And my elevator pitch would be something like, oh yeah, I help people that, have had great careers, but they're not feeling like they're their best health. I work with them and completely can change the way that they feel. I did it with myself and I'm doing it. I have clients now. It's nutrition, it's rebalancing, it's detoxifying, it's lifestyle. And there's no more like, oh my God, I'm feeling my age. It goes away. Like, you don't have it anymore. Like, that would be sort of my version of an elevator pitch. Like, if I was talking to somebody and if there was anybody in my, target market, they might be like, hey, wait a minute, hold on. I need to talk to you, So that's really important for when you're getting your business. It's got to be short and sweet, like, so that people get it. Does that make sense?
Get them hooked. Yes. Yeah, no, for sure. And I think too, that whole concept, when you say, what sets yourself apart. And I think what a lot of IHPs have in common, which a lot of people like to know this right off the bat, and it can be part of like the elevator pitch, like you said, yours is part of, is I've been there. Because we naturally tend to trust people who have been through similar,
right,
whether it be hardships, joys, ups and downs that we've been through, because we automatically relate, and relatability builds trust. And so if you can be like, I relate to you and I know how to help you, that is like an instant, a hook for some people in the feeling of, I'll talk to her more because I can trust
Exactly.
her. Yeah.
And it's the same thing, like even if somebody's getting into this field, but they don't really have a personal health challenge, someone close to them, a family member, a close friend that they help, that's equally as motivating.
Of course.
So that could be too. And this also has to do with, and I don't know if we'll get much of a chance to get into this, but when you're thinking about what's your product, and you talk your audience, your market, what's your product, and then you start getting into what's your message. So that's the four. So we've got the multi-billion dollar industry. We're figuring out who our client is or who our audience is. We're figuring out what makes us different. And a lot of times when you develop that elevator pitch, that will help you like identify what makes you different. Like why does somebody want to go to you versus anybody else? And the last one is focus on your message. How do you match your product with the client? Like how do you get your service to the client? So what's your message there? And I have a lot of tactical things I can talk about in a minute, but again, that goes back to your elevator pitch. You've got to have that developed. Somebody else I heard this explained once is how to start thinking about the elevator pitch is if somebody's writing a newspaper article, somebody's interviewing like 4 or 5 people that worked with you. And they're talking about you, like what you do and how you do it. How do you want that article to sound? How do you want that article to read? Like, I want them to say, she understood my issue. She related to my issue. She was able to completely turn my energy and my brain fog and my aches and pains and turn them around so that I am so looking forward to aging. Like I feel so optimized. Like I would love that to be the article written about me. Mm-hmm. So anyway, that's another way to sort of think about this, because sometimes maybe people don't connect to the elevator pitch one, but I thought that was another angle. And that's when you're focusing on your message, that's where you start getting into your branding. And for example, my company is called Balaj Wellness. So we went, I worked with some marketing people. And again, I'm sort of back up here a little bit. So I started finding websites that I liked. Like I started finding the way people were messaging, like as I was looking through things, I'm like, I like how this looks. So I would like save them. Mm-hmm. So you start doing that too. So I found one locally in the town I live in, just south of Boston. And it turned out that the people happened to live in my same town, which you don't have to have that now, but that was just lucky coincidence for me. But they helped a lot with this. So sometimes it is nice if you can get help, because when you work by yourself, it's hard to see it. It's like good to have a little bit of back and forth. So if you have the budget to hire somebody to help you with the branding and the website kind of stuff, or even if it's just the branding to get input, that's good. And I was fortunate to be able to do that. But, so we went through, it's a process of trying to understand like my personality, what colors do I like? They were asking me to interview people to explain like my personality, to sort of get like a feel for it. And we knew I wanted to focus on, optimal aging. And so we came up with Balaj because Bella is like Belinda for my name. Mm-hmm. And then age is for aging. So that's how we kind of came up with the branding. And I happen to love navy blue. So I just kind of went with I like very simple, like clean lines. So that's my look and feel that I like. Not as some people like a lot of animation and happy and bright colors. And that's, that like, I also feel like because mine is for a more mature audience, I feel like I wanted more sophisticated. So, but that's what you work on, like figuring out your brand. So figure out your message. How are you going to get this out to people? And one of the first steps you do is start thinking about your brand. Like, how do you want to market yourself? And like my tagline, if you will, is wellness has no age. So those are the kinds of things that you start thinking about. And again, don't get too caught up in it, because you don't want to get back to you don't want it perfect to get it launched. You can always go back and change it or modify it. But
yeah.
I do have some tactical things we did. So I'll just summarize those again. Those things, or do we think we got it?
The three things?
Well, the first is that we have the market. Yeah, we have like the $1 billion market. And then it's who's your client, your audience? What makes your service different? What problem are you solving? Mm-hmm. And what's your message? How are you going to match the two? How are you going to get your message to your client? So these are things to actually write out and think about and talk to people about. Just don't keep it in your head.
Yes. Yeah, no, I think those are good, tangible ways for our audience to start thinking about, even if people have already launched a business. Oh, maybe I'm skipped, step 3. Let me go back and figure that one out, because it could refine and perfect things a little bit more. Like you said, if you're just starting out, great 4 steps. Yeah. But if you already did, even going back and thinking about all 4 of those items would be effective. So I know you have so much information to share. So tell me what you want to talk about next as far as the tactical stuff. Okay. Yeah. So we can do that next. I'm just clarifying that at this point, I just started doing my newsletter just 1 month. The website just got loaded. So a lot of these things I'm just getting started with. I'm just building the business. So I might change have you things. Back for an update. I would love to. We can do kind of, this is how it started, and then we can do a how's it going. I know. I don't think we're even going to get to my favorite 7 habits, but we'll have to do that another time. We'll do the gist at the end. Okay. So some of the things I'm talking about, I might change, I might modify, I might, I am working with about 10 clients right now. And that's one of the things you start with is friends and family. That's how those of us who are totally new to this industry and just getting started, it's the friends and family. Mm-hmm. So not everybody is my avatar. There's different age groups, but it's really pretty cool, the feedback you get from people you're helping. Yes. It's totally different than, making lots of money selling, technology. Yes. So, which becomes incredibly motivating, because that's why I would say 98% of us do what we do, is because the feedback. I always say, if I hit the lottery tomorrow, I would still, if I didn't have to actually financially work to make a living, I would still do this. I would still find a way to help people. What I would do is help people who couldn't afford it. Right. But I would never stop doing this, because what it actually does for my own well-being of just being able to know that I helped one person today. Okay. One person it's amazing. And yes, you can be successful selling computer equipment. And that's, I would argue, what ultimately got you here, or all of your sales of other things allowed you to get to the point where you could, do something that was passionate, that fulfilled you at the end of your career. I absolutely agree. it is very cool to be starting to work with these clients and which are friends and family. And I know I'm just starting to get some referrals, but again, it's like, don't get caught up in the perfection, and, you start small and it gets big. So just do the actions, just start doing it. And that's the best way to sort of start getting momentum. And for those of us in IHP, and when I was in Mastery, I know some people were challenged about the labs and reading them and that kind of thing. And there is an amazing support system on Facebook, amazing groups. So you can get support, and you can also work with one of the coaches to help you go through the labs and stuff. And that's a great way to just keep learning, and it's amazing. But so anyway, I'll talk about some of the tactical things that I've personally been doing for the last couple of months. The first thing I did was set up Instagram, and I did that actually before the website went live, and then started working on the posts and the content. And at this point, we actually have a schedule, because we know how detailed I am with structure and stuff. So do you have a spreadsheet of your Instagram? Oh yeah. Well, that's what I mean, but that's what
like post what you feel you're motivated that day. That's what you do. And some people do, and that works. That works fine. I personally feel like when you're getting started, it's better to have more structure. I mean, I think once you get going and you have momentum, but, and again, I don't have a lot of, I haven't posted a lot of stuff about me yet because I feel like I want to get more content out there. That's valuable. So with Instagram, I'm doing like 2 stories a week and 3 feed posts a week just to sort of get content. But I'm also at the same time doing blogs that are going out once a week. And the reason why the blogs are good, and it's really good to have somebody help you with these, is because they get, SEO, search engine optimized. Yeah. So when somebody does a search or a Google for something, you are going to come up. Your website's going to come up. Your information's going to come up. So that is just a way that in today's technology to find clients. And also, I haven't mentioned, but I'm 100% virtual. So, so I can work with anybody all over the world. So this is why you want to take advantage of these SEO blogs, because it will help people find you. Mm-hmm. And that's already started happening. So I think I've got maybe around 700 followers on Instagram. So it's just getting started. It's all been organic. And it's like-minded people, which is important. The other way I hadn't really thought of, somebody suggested it to me, was Pinterest, because I'm not a big user of Pinterest. So we've been promoting the content on Pinterest. And it's the same information that's like on Instagram, but I'm doing a lot of photos and visual, and that really does well with Pinterest. So Pinterest is definitely, I'll give you some numbers in a minute, but Pinterest is definitely helping. Interesting. So that's something new. And it is good to do, like I said, the blog, the SEO is really important. The monthly newsletter is great to be able to research topics. My newsletter that's going to be coming out in March is one of the things I did, I like to experiment, was I did my omega-3 lab, so omega-3s. And of course we see so much about seed oils in the news right now. That's inflammation. That's a critical inflammation. And that, to go through the protocol that we do the lab, do it, and then do the both, dramatic. Like I just put years on into my, aggressive fund for my health account. We keep sticking with that analogy, so what I'm doing is posting before and after labs, what I did, so I think it's valuable content, and people don't know about this. They just don't know. They have no idea. So that's just kind of fun stuff to do in the newsletter, and it keeps things top of mind. And also because a lot of the packages that do all the labs and everything together are expensive, it also gives me an opportunity to reach people that maybe can't afford those expensive services. Right. They can do other things. And they don't inherently know the extreme value in your service. And so just getting in front of them for an omega-3 test is, similar to your point much earlier on in the show, is, I don't want to meet with a health coach. What the heck is she going to do? Exactly. They're all of a sudden like, oh wait, she's not a health coach. She's a health coach. Yeah. And she can help me. And then it again builds that trust, and then you can get them to run more. Well, I mean, that's why we call it integrative health practitioner, which is really what we are. But people are like, what the hell is an integrative health practitioner? So we can't win. One of the other tactics, which has actually worked out really well, and I like, and it's one of the 7 habits of highly effective people that we might be able to get into a little bit, but is influencer outreach. So it's going on Instagram, and the really big influencers won't be interested in Balaj wellness at this point because I'm just too small, right? But you find the 5,000 and below followers type of people, and you reach out to them, just send them a DM. Like, hey, I'm getting started. This is what I do. Your stuff looks very similar to mine. Would you want to work together? I'll promote, your stuff. Will you promote my stuff? And let's see, we can help. And it's been amazing. The response has been amazing. People they're so receptive to it. Yes. So that's kind of a different thing, I think. a different tactic to try.
Of course.
And the other area is to do passive income, setting up the affiliate product page, which I've done. And again, that's also a part of the blog. For example, I've been doing a lot with clean beauty. And, it's so important not to put anything on your skin that has toxins. You might as well eat it. It's the same thing. So I've just had so much fun because I would never recommend anything unless I use it and try it myself. And, oh my God, you should see my bathroom. It's so filled with the most amazing products. I just slather this stuff on it. Have you heard of a company called Osea? O-S-E-A?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Oh my God.
I have their cleanser on my sink.
They're oils. They're oils. Yes. Oh my gosh. I could just do a bath of them. They're so good. But anyway,
and it's like the aromatherapy when you use these natural products. I mean, it is, people are like, oh, what do you do for self-care? I buy things that are high quality, that smell amazing, because it's like my 10 minutes of peace.
Yeah. Oh, it's amazing.
My kids are in bed and I wash my face and I put my stuff on, and it's when they smell heavenly and they don't smell like chemicals, it almost calms my body down without even needing to take a supplement. It's the products, when they're natural, smell amazing. Well,
they're amazing. And so I've been doing, different teas and organic clothes. And so you reach out to these companies and they come back. I mean, I just did a promotion on sleep because I'm obsessed with the chili pad, the Uller chili pad. Especially for people in hormones like perimenopause, menopause, have hot flash, are hot at night, life-changing. This thing's life-changing. So I just did because it educates people, it's value. So that's what you want to do, is you want to come up with stories and blogs that add value, that it's interesting information and to your target audience. So that's those are the tactical things I've been doing on the Instagram, Pinterest, blogs, newsletter, influencer outreach, affiliate page. So that's what I've got started with. And I have a couple of numbers because that's what I do.
Give us the numbers.
I pulled it from the spreadsheet. So on Instagram, just to know what we're working on, I've had a 26% engagement rate on Instagram, which is the number of people who see a post, they do a like or they do a comment. And the average engagement rate for Instagram is 1.2%. So that tells me right away, and these are easy to see. It's easy to go on Instagram. It gives you these reports. You just click on it and it shows you what all this is.
Oh, I thought you were calculating this yourself.
I should have left it at that. You would have been really impressed.
No, I could imagine you were, but
No. It's much easier than that. You just click on I can't remember what the screen's called, but you click on it and it tells you what your engagement rate is. So, so it's 26%. So that tells me that I'm putting out content that people are interested in, because that's considered a good engagement rate. I've also had a 13,000 reach on Instagram. The number of people that have been looking at my posts. People, maybe they're not following me, but they're looking at them, they're watching them, they're interested in it. So that tells me that to me, that's measuring if I'm putting value, if I'm getting value out there.
Sure. And if you're reaching beyond just your followers too.
Right. And again, I just launched the website in January, which is a couple months ago, and 3 months ago now, I guess. But, I've had 2,000 page views already. So that's pretty good for just being up a couple of months.
Yes.
And I just put up Pinterest. I'm just sort of experimenting with Pinterest now. And I've had over 1,000 monthly views coming right now on Pinterest, just interested in the photos and the stuff. So I think what we're hearing here, hopefully, is it's not all about your just coaching.
Right.
This is the part of the business development part, is adding value. You just don't magically, people just don't call you and want to have an appointment. So for us, I one of the other 7 habits is sharpening the saw, right? Which is learning, always learning, always learning. So I'm constantly doing it. I'm obsessed with podcasts, and it's like Christmas morning for me when I can download my new podcasts every morning. And so we're always sharpening the saw, but so that's the balance of continual learning. It's, working your appointments, doing your consultations, those calls, But this stuff has to be happening in the background, doing this tactical stuff, which is good because, researching the information for the blogs and the posts that I do is informative to me, but it does take time. So it is
and often
important.
Unpaid time that people kind of don't, they don't take into account, but it's such an important start of getting
business
going.
development. This is business development. And also that's why you set up an affiliate page, because that is, right now I have a bunch of people, I'm an ambassador for Equalife. And, people get started on this and they love it and they're ordering it. And I get a percentage for that. So again, some people are uncomfortable with that, but there's a lot of stuff, to your point, that you're doing that's not paid.
Right. And you've already done the beneficial researching and the whole trust component of these are the supplements that are going to help you. Like, I know that.
Yes.
And so you do deserve some sort of.
And again, with the other products. So, and the last thing that I'm hoping to get into, and see, this is my first podcast ever, is doing more podcasts, because as you can probably tell, I'm more of a talker than a writer.
You and me both.
I talk too much. Writing the blogs are tough for me. It's tough for me. Like, that's something when I get down the road, I'll probably outsource more.
Yes.
Because I just, can't help myself. I talk too much, but anyway.
But you have a lot to share. And I think since you do love talking, and we have you back on, and we kind of do a little bit because you already have had early on success, based on the numbers that you shared and kind of how you've started things. I think it would be great. It's not like you're kind of some seasoned 4-year coach. We have you back on to kind of talk about how things that you did start early on that we reflected on in this episode have gotten, where it's gotten you and what benefit it's changed. So
I would love it. I'd love to come on. And I know I have this other framework that I know we don't have time to get into today, but it's what I've used, the fundamentals for any business that I've worked with. And it's just always been my guide for everything. And I have some other friends who all feel the same way. It's Stephen Covey's, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. So at some point, maybe next time, maybe I'll get more into those. But there's just a lot of great stuff using that as a framework to help you stay on track too.
All right. So Belinda, if our listeners want to find you on Instagram or webpage, where can they find you?
It's easy. Bellage Wellness, Bellage Wellness. That's the Instagram. That's the website. That's the Pinterest. And definitely reach out to me. I'm happy to help. Always happy to help.
Great. Thank you so much for being on the Integrative Health Coach Success Podcast. I think all of your business wisdom, as I like to call it, and all of your information that you shared is invaluable to our listeners. And I'll look forward to having you on again to kind of find out what you've started with, how it's, helped. It seems like it's worked so far. And then we can have a little bit of a tune-up a few months down the line.
I'd love it. I love it. I look forward to coming back. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, my pleasure. We'll be in touch soon. Thanks, Belinda.
Thanks.